Now in this video we're going to talk about the start menu and the taskbar. So first let's understand what the start menu is. The start menu is accessed by clicking on the start button or pressing the Windows key on your keyboard. Pretty much all keyboards now have a Windows key on the bottom left hand side of the keyboard between the Control and Alt key, and it has a little Windows logo, much like the Windows logo I'm pointing at on the screen right now. So whenever you click this, you're going to get the start menu. Now, since Microsoft updated the start menu, people have pretty much ignored it because they don't really understand what it is. So we're going to dive deep into how the start menu can actually work for you. But first, let's understand a little bit about how Windows works. So this is a new install of Windows. I used it in another video of customizing, so this has been customized a little bit from the default, and you can go back and watch that new Windows setup video if you want to see how, if anything looks different from yours, how it got that way. But let's talk a little bit about a program. So in this example here, I've got Google Chrome that I've added to my Windows 10, and I also have Internet Explorer down here. Now the taskbar is the big black bar that always shows at the bottom, and it's got an icon here for Internet Explorer, but Internet Explorer is not running. If I open this and click on it, you see a little blue line appeared below it, and it's got a highlight in the background. And now it still just has a little blue line at the bottom. That lets me know that program is actually running. If I minimize this, now if I point at the icon, I'll see a little preview or peek thumbnail of that, and if I point at it, well, then it'll appear on the screen. So let's go ahead and open Google Chrome. I'm going to double click on Google Chrome, so now the Google Chrome icon is there. If I close Chrome, the icon goes away. Now, because the taskbar is always there, programs that I use a lot, I would like to always have an icon whether the program is open or not. So I'm going to go ahead and open Google Chrome, then I'm going to point at the icon, I'm going to push my right mouse button. That's going to give me this menu, and I'm going to be able to select Pin to Taskbar. Now once I've selected Pin to Taskbar, and I close this, now the icon is going to stay. So I don't really need an icon on the desktop anymore, so I'm going to click on the icon on the desktop, hit the delete key, and that's going to go away. So now the other thing I want to talk about are jump lists, because jump lists are very important while we're looking at the icons on the taskbar. If I point at the Internet Explorer icon and I right click, I'm going to get a whole list of things that come up in this menu, and as you can see, it's even got Google Chrome browser. These are websites that I've recently or frequently go to. So Windows will keep track of stuff you go to a lot, so rather than opening up your program and then navigating to wherever you go, I'm going to go ahead and close this. So now I don't have it open at all, and I'm going to point at, instead of opening the window, I'm going to right click and get this menu. Now things that I go to a lot, I can just click on and go right to, rather than having to navigate to them. So that can be a real big time saver. So now we have these two icons on here for my task menu, but let's get back into the other thing is also you can right click on the taskbar and you've got Taskbar Settings. On Taskbar Settings, lock the taskbar keeps everything where it's located. If we turn that off, then we can actually drag the taskbar to somewhere else. I'm holding down the left mouse button and just dragging it by pointing it. We can put it at the top of the screen, to the left, or the bottom. We're going to leave it at the bottom. If you lock it, it will not let you drag it around. But if you want to move it to some other part of the screen, you would turn off the lock first. The other thing we have is automatically hide the taskbar. If you have a desktop computer, you can turn this on, see how it disappeared, and when I point my mouse back down toward the bottom of the screen, it comes back. If you'll notice, it didn't just always come back very easily, so that's why I generally leave it visible. Use small taskbar buttons if you want to have more space. That will hide the search and give you smaller icons so you can put more stuff down here if you want to pin more programs to the start menu. But we're going to go ahead and leave the larger ones for the video. Use peek to preview the desktop when you move your mouse to show the desktop button at the end of the taskbar. If we turn this on, there is a hidden button at the very very hard to see. Right past this little notification icon, the clock notification, there's a little button here that you can click to minimize all your windows. And if we turn on that option, whenever you point at that little thing, it shows that. I think that's probably useless. I'm scrolling down with the rolling button on my mouse. The replace commands, don't really care about that. Taskbar location on screen, you can actually use this to move it around if you want to, rather than dragging it. Combine taskbar buttons, and basically the rest of this I don't think is mostly, this is where I turned off people before. The people icon, if you use the Windows 10, here we go. You can use this to use things, but that's beyond the scope of this, so we're going to turn off people. Just wanted you to know what it is. And now let's go back to customizing the start menu itself. So first off, let's look at the icons. Well, we've already looked at the icons. The programs that are in here. Now, if you don't play games, this is wasted space. And let me just start with the reason why the start menu can be very powerful. Things in the start menu never move. When you hold your mouse button and drag these things around to wherever you want them, they're going to stay there. And that's very useful. So on your desktop, where you might create a whole bunch of icons and have things dragged around, or if you change screens or one of your screens is off when your computer boots up, icons tend to move around, and you know, it can be difficult to things. But the things you use, I'm going to go back to right-clicked on the mouse on the desktop. I'm going to sort by item type to arrange these neatly. I'm going to go ahead and empty my recycle bin by right-clicking and pointing at it. Empty recycle bin, delete that icon. So back to the start menu. Why this I think is very powerful. Since this is a default one, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to right-click on this and I'm going to say unpin from start. Because I'm not going to play these games. I'm not interested in this. In my opinion, this is just Microsoft wasting space. I'll leave solitaire there. Sometimes people want to find that. Now, if you'll notice, we have a calculator, a video player, maps, or I'm sorry, music, and maps. And this is for photos. Now, these are all apps. And you notice the size of these icons. These are very small. Now, let's say I wanted a small control panel icon also in here. I'm also going to remove the Xbox thing. And notice that this title here says play. If I click on it, I could change it to tools. And this one down here says name group. So if I change this, I can put my other stuff. So you can organize these groups into what's logical for you. Now if I point at this and hold down my button, I can actually drag the groups and move them around. Now see, because there wasn't any space there, it wouldn't let me drag it where I wanted to put it. So be aware of that. So now if I drag this and put this back down here, that looks more logical again because of the space. Now, if you'll notice the weather, one of the first things I usually do is I'll click on the weather thing and allow it to use my current location, which, okay, so it's saying locations are turned off. I'm going to go ahead and go to settings. And I'm going to enable that so that it can actually tell where it's going to use my network to find out where I'm at. Now that I've turned on location settings, well, location settings are on. I will allow apps to locate my location. So I'm going to turn that on. I'm scrolling down with the mouse button, and that should allow this to be happy now. Whoops, still saying locations are turned off. So I'm going to close this program since I've turned them back on and reopen it again. And hopefully now I can say, yeah, it's going to say let weather access your precise location. I'm going to say yes, because all applications have to be given the permission to see where I'm at. And now it knows I'm in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm going to click on start. I'm going to go ahead and I don't need to read that. So now that I've done that for weather, whenever I click on my start menu, I'm going to have Atlanta weather. Now I like the weather, so I'm going to point at this using my left mouse button, drag this down. I'm going to drag my weather up here to the top, and I'm also going to drag this, well, I'm going to try to drag it down. It's not really going to let me. Let's see, can I, yeah, move this down, and then I'm going to move this down. You kind of have, since it auto corrects for things, you kind of have to drag things, you know, and other things will move around for them. So I wanted space beside my weather icon up here. So now I'm going to right click on it and get a menu, and I'm going to click on resize, and I'm going to say large. So now I've got a large one. Actually, I may want wide. So a wide one, well, it still didn't get much bigger. But resize, I thought it would take up the whole thing. I'm going to go ahead and say large. So now I've got my weather and forecast that I can see every time I start this. Now this office, I'm not going to need that. That's basically them trying to sell it. So I'm going to unpin that one. And that, you'll notice that deleted that group because there's no longer anything in it. Now, while pointing at the start menu, I'm going to roll my mouse button, which allows me to scroll around in the start menu because I've got stuff way down here. So I'm going to go ahead and drag this stuff up by just holding down the mouse button and dragging, and because I want to get everything just on one screen. I don't want to have to scroll through this start menu. My goal is to move these around to where I get everything up on one screen. There. So now everything, I'm not having to scroll around. Now if I wanted this to be wider, I can't just point at the side. Notice it turned into my pointer turned into an arrow. I'm going to hold down the left mouse button and drag this to be bigger. Well, it's not going to let me because I don't have anything over there. That I think becomes in the whole show more tiles. If I go to settings, okay, I click the little gear there. I'm going to type in start settings, and on my start settings, show most used apps. I'm going to go ahead and turn that on and use full. If you put this on full, well then that would take up the full screen, and you do not want that. That's what Windows 8 did and why everybody hated it. So we're not going to turn that on. Show more tiles on start. If I turn that on, it should make my start menu bigger. You'll notice the start menu got bigger now. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that on. And again, the reason why the start menu is powerful is because once you arrange this with the things you currently use, it will always be there every time you go there. So I don't use Spotify Music. Going to go ahead and actually you can uninstall. Some of these will have uninstall on them if they come from the Windows Store. So I'm actually going to uninstall it. I have no use for Spotify at all. Take that off my computer. I also don't have any Adobe Photoshop. I clicked on it to see it's taking me to the Microsoft Store and free trial. Yeah, so again, it would want money eventually. And click back to start. I don't need anything that's going to want money from me that I don't use, so I'm taking that off. Now again, I originally was going to add control panel up to these nice little small icons here. So I'm going to just click down on start. I'm going to type in control panel. Found it right here. Just started typing the first word. I'm going to right click on control panel and say pin to start. Now if I pinned it to taskbar, it would put it down here, but I don't want it on the taskbar, so I'm going to say unpin. I'm going to right click and say pin to start. So now when I go back to the start menu, it's added a large icon for a control panel, but I want it to be nice and small to fit next to these. So the first thing I'm going to do is point at it, right click, and I'm going to say resize and say small. And then I'm going to drag this up here, and now I have a nice small icon for my control panel. Now let's say I want a clock. So alarms and clocks. I'm going to right click on this. I'm going to say pin to start. Go back to the start menu. Now I've got alarms and clock. I'm going to click on more, turn live tile off. We'll cover that in a second. I'm just going to go ahead and say resize. Since it's not showing me the current date and time, I'm going to resize that to something small. This would be for setting an alarm using my computer. I'll move this up a little bit so it's a little bit more flush. So now I'm going to click on my clocks and see 7 a.m. Notifications will only show if the PC is awake. In other words, if the computer goes to sleep, it's not going to make a sound. So you'd need to change your power settings if you wanted to use an alarm. Clock, local time, timer, stopwatch. All the things you would want to do with time. So click on here. I've got a small one there. And again, I can drag these around to do this. Now, the reason this is showing the current weather, or it will always show my current weather in the forecast, is because it's what's called a live tile. This is actually a running program of weather. If I right click on it, I can go to more and I can say turn live tile off. And see, now it just went blank because it's no longer active. So if I right click this again, go to more, and say turn live tile on, it's going to show me the weather. Now your photos, if you have a bunch of pictures on your computers, will also cycle through your photos. So if I right click here again and go to more, I can say turn live tile off if I do not want the photos to be cycling through. Now currently it's not doing it. Once I open this, it may want some permissions or things since I've never used it. Yeah, it's trying to get me to use a Microsoft account, which I'm not going to do. And explore, edit, blah, 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 blah. Close that. So if I had any pictures on, yeah, add photos with pictures. If I had pictures here, they would show up here. But again, this is just test computer and I don't seem to have. I thought they might have samples. And so it's not showing anything. But if I had pictures on there, it would show them. If I didn't, I would right click, go to more, and say turn live tile off. So that basically shows you any program that you wanted to add. I'm just trying to think. If I wanted to add a calendar, here's my calendar app. I can right click on it, say pin to start. Actually, it's already on there, so unpin to start because the calendar was already, where's the calendar? Here's the calendar here. And again, you could make that bigger if you wanted to. If you do use the calendar and put things in there, it will show your appointments. I'm going to unpin mail because I'm not using that. Unpin from start. And I don't use OneNote. Unpin from start. So the idea behind this is to only have the stuff in here you actually use. News, Skype, Paint 3D. And if you unpin or pin things here, there's still going to be a program on here. You'll still be able to find them. The only time it's removed is if you right click and you select uninstall. Now some programs you may not be able to uninstall from here, and some older programs you may not be able to pin to start. If you have a very old program on your computer and you find the program and you right click on it, you may find it doesn't have a pin to start or allow you to pin to the taskbar. What you can do in that case is you say open file location. Let's say these two didn't exist. I can open file location. Here's a shortcut, the type of shortcut. I can right click on this and then I can say send to my desktop to create a shortcut. If it wouldn't, some older programs, Windows will not allow you to put on the taskbar start. You don't have any other choice if you want a quick way to access it other than to put an icon on your desktop. And that may occur. Again, with older programs, don't think something's broken on your Windows. It's just older software Microsoft doesn't allow you to put it in here for security reasons because of the way the software works. So that pretty much covers the start menu and the taskbar. And I hope you have found this information useful and helpful. Have a great day.